It's the Daily Dog.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today. So on today's episode, we're going to actually be looking at one of my own pieces, and I'm excited to share it with you. I was reminded earlier today that it's the 6th anniversary of when I had one of my pieces premiered for the first time on a Spoleto Festival program. And it was a monumental day for me, one of my favorite and most successful public performances of a piece of mine that I've ever experienced. And I want to share it with you guys a little bit. So here's the backstory. I was a teacher at Westminster Choir College, and back in June of 2014, I was approached by Dr. Joe Miller, who was the director of choral activities at Westminster and also the director of the Westminster Choir. And he was asking me if I had any pieces that he could include on their upcoming yearly touring program. And his overall thesis or structure for the program was going to be about love. Not necessarily love songs, but songs that sort of lifted up the idea of how we are connected through this feeling, through this intangible sort of thing that we all feel, but we can't really rationally hold on to. And so I sent him some stuff, and he didn't find anything specifically that he wanted. So he said, well, would you mind writing something? And I said, sure. I actually would enjoy writing something for the Westminster Choir to do on their touring program. Thank you very much. The problem then became finding the right text. So I reached out to a good friend of mine named Charles Anthony Silvestri. So he goes by Tony. So Tony is a good friend. We knew each other from when I was doing my doctoral degree at the University of Kansas. Tony lives in Lawrence, Kansas, and he is one of the world's leading librettists and lyricists for composers and songwriters, and just an all-around unique and brilliant person. Tony is a poet, he's an author, he's also a composer. He is a professor of ancient and medieval history at Washburn University, and he's worked with Eric Whitacre and Dan Forrest. He's written stuff for major opera companies, for choral ensembles around the world, and he's just an all-around wonderful colleague. And he agreed to write me a sonnet about love, and I'm going to read the text because for me it all starts with a great poem or a great piece of text when I'm going to write a choral composition. So he sent this to me, and he sent it to me on Saturday, August 9th of 2014. Here's the poem. Ah, love, more wondrous far than any force that ever worked its power upon a heart. Ah, love, you captor cruel, without remorse, why do you first ensnare and then depart? A glance becomes a touch, a kiss. No food nor sleep can calm the heartbeat's race. In all the earth there be no greater bliss than thy beloved's love in love's embrace. But love like this cannot endure through time. Our interests fade, as fresh experience supplants our ex-obsession once sublime, and passion withers to expedience. The only loves which last eternally are God's for us and mine, beloved, for thee. He sent that to me, and I remember reading it, and I just read it, and I'm like, I can't believe that I get to work with this brilliant poem to write this piece. It also was a little bit daunting because I was like, okay, now I'm in the big leagues. I've got one of the world's best lyricists who's provided me a text, and one of the world's best choirs that's looking for something to dig their teeth into. And what I came up with was a song that we initially titled Love, but we ended up changing the name to The Eternal Promise. And this piece is published by Walton Music. It's in the Westminster Choir College series, and I am extremely thankful for the publisher, also Walton and GIA. They're kind of connected. But if you look it up, I will actually put a description link down in or a link down in the description box. So if you would like to purchase this piece for your own choir, if you have people that you know that are in a choral ensemble, or you would like to suggest it to them, be my guest. Thank you very much. So they performed it throughout the entire year that year. It was debuted for the first time in November of 2014. The performance we're going to listen to today is their performance at the Spoleto Festival in Charleston, South Carolina. The Spoleto Festival has been going on in Charleston since the 70s. It is a multi-week, just absolutely fantastic cultural and arts series. They have operas, they have symphonies, they have choral groups, they have visual artists, filmmakers, you name it. It's such a wonderful place to be. We have visited Charleston during this time around Memorial Day, like multiple times throughout the year to be a part of this series. And it's a really wonderful memory. And I just remember sitting in the audience at this historic church watching one of the best choral ensembles like in the world just absolutely singing their butts off for a peace of mind. And it's one of the best feelings that you'll ever have. And I remember it so fondly. It was 6 years ago today. So that's what I want to listen to. This is a bootleg recording. Bootleg recording from that performance, and we have synced the score to it as well, so we can take a look. Here we go. This is mine and Tony Silvestri's setting of The Eternal Promise, sung by the Westminster Choir. Here we go. And then it goes on from there. I'm gonna stop it, and you're going, hey, wait a minute, I like that. At least I'm hoping you're saying you like that. I want to talk you through the beginning of this, because the beginning is sort of my entire, it's the entire piece just in a little box, right? So if you look at this, there is an alto, and she is singing the stems up, and there is a tenor solo, and he is singing the down stems. And this entire opening is, like I said, a microcosm of the piece. The main motive, the motive for this piece, the love motive for me, is an upward sigh. So you see this, love, right? That upward sigh. And it's a little bit of a romantic dance. The alto introduces and says, hey, how we doing? And the tenor responds. And then the alto comes back and with a little bit of a more elaborate song, and the tenor responds in kind, this time separated by a shorter distance. The first time he's separated by a half, half the measure, and now he's only separated by a quarter note, part of the measure, a quarter of the measure. And then she sings "Ah Love" again, and he even responds more quickly. So now they're getting a little hot and heavy, but there's trouble in paradise because there's some chromaticism in the tenor part, and they kind of end on a crunch, right? But in the end, they're in octaves. Go this way. They're in octaves, and then they land together, and it's a symbol of everlasting love. So that's what this beginning is like. She starts, and he answers an octave down. She starts again, and his thing is exactly the same as hers, but just separated by a beat. Then she starts again, and then the dissonance or conflict, and then universality. And the choir comes in. See the soloist come back over the top of the choir, and it sets up the next section of the poem. So it's a similar idea, but we're talking about being cruel and without remorse, so it goes a little bit more into a minor sound. New section. Starts with the gals. Guys answer. It's an embrace. Her line and his line. Embrace. New section. Kind of Dorian mode-ish. With a sustained note in the bass section to tie it all together. It's supposed to be enduring through time. The passion starts to wither, and it starts in one voice, and it goes to another voice. Passion withers to expedience, and all of this filters away. Then we flip into this budding sort of opening and realization that the only loves which last eternally are God's for us and mine for thee. It's one of my absolute favorites of my pieces, and I can't tell you how exciting it was to be in the room listening to that live, and to know that there are a few thousand other people there that have paid really good money to hear it. And it went over very well, and it got a great review in the paper, and it's now been published, like I said. So if you are interested in taking a further look at that piece, check out the link in the description of this video. The Eternal Promise was written in the summer of 2014. The lyrics are by Charles Anthony Silvestri, and I couldn't be prouder of it, or more proud to have a group of musicians like you just heard, singing it so wonderfully, interpreting it so wonderfully. It's a balm to my soul. It's a great memory too. That was 6 years ago today that we were down in Charleston. Just as good as the performance was the dinner we had in Charleston that night as well. If you've never been to Charleston, it's a great place to go visit, and I would heartily recommend it. So wonderful stuff. That was The Eternal Promise by yours truly, and Tony Silvestri, sung by the Westminster Choir. Thanks for being with me today, and we will see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.